The coronavirus pandemic's impact on the airline industry has already ended thousands of aviation careers early. One of them is that of Southwest Airlines captain Tammie Jo Shults, who flew her crippled 737 to a safe landing in Philadelphia in 2018 after an explosion ripped apart one of the engines midair. It was a feat of physics that one Shults praised as a hero. We sat down with Shults last fall, and now, as she hangs up her wings, her story serves as a reminder in tough times of the resilience of the human spirit. 32,000 feet over Pennsylvania. A Southwest Airlines 737 was coming apart.
The first 0.01 second was determining of whether we'd maintained control.
For the 144 passengers on board, the next 17 minutes were terrifying.
Southwest 1380 has an engine fire descending.
Southwest 1380, you're descending right now?
Yes, sir. We're single engine descending, have a fire number 1.
The woman at the helm of the jet had never planned for something like this. But what her frightened passengers couldn't have known then was that she'd spent decades preparing for exactly this.
There was a number of questions about why I did what I did, how I did it. And I realized, looking back, that there's a lot of things that add up in life.
Tammie Jo Shults' journey in aviation started long before Southwest Airlines Flight 1380 took off. In the 1970s, growing up near Holloman Air Force Base, she saw military pilots practice in-air combat and was hooked. You were watching those dogfights overhead in New Mexico and thought, that's what I want to do with my entire career? Or was there some sense of, at some point, I want to fly passengers?
I just wanted to fly, period. I didn't care what they gave me, just let me fly.
But the ones with the controls were all men, and they made it clear they didn't want her there. At a career day in her teens, an Air Force colonel told her girls didn't fly for a living. The Army and the Air Force both turned her away, one recruiter telling her, "We aren't accepting applications from girls."
I think that all lives, if they're in any kind of forward movement, face obstacles.
It was years before she tried again, finally breaking into the Navy.
I started flying the A7 in 1989.
She spent close to a decade there, making history when she became one of the first female pilots to fly the F-18 Hornet.
It was a complicated process to try to meld in and not bring attention to yourself, but not get pushed over.
But the bullying continued, instructors telling her women didn't belong.
Growing up, my mom, she said, tell God on them. Just tell God on them and then pray for them.
Were there times where you thought, it's whether I want to do it or not, this path of doing it is just too emotionally abusive?
No.
When she moved on to airline flying in the mid-90s, one male captain saw her and said, another empty kitchen.
If God's given me the motive and the merit to be here, they're really down the chain of command from God. So unless they show me the gate, I'm here.
Shults' faith, a refuge in the fog of sexist assaults on her dreams, and a source of strength in the most trying moments of her long flying career. Do you remember what you were doing right before it happened?
I had a check ride in just a couple of weeks after that, so I was studying for my check ride. So.
And then forget studying.
Right, those papers went flying.
Is your airplane physically on fire?
No, it's not on fire, but part of it's missing.
I wonder if your faith had the effect of reducing or eliminating your fear of death in that moment, and that allowed you to think more clearly.
Oh, without a doubt, yes.
Just moments before touchdown,
there's this silence when he clears us in, and then you hear this Heavenly Father.
A prayer captured on the cockpit voice recorder.
There was a hole and someone went out.
I'm sorry, you said there was a hole and somebody went out?
But even landing was part one. The explosion had ripped a window out of the jet, partially pulling passenger Jennifer Reardon out. Other passengers desperately fought to bring her back in the plane and perform CPR, but Reardon was pronounced dead after landing.
148 lives returning to their loved ones never eclipses the loss of one life. It was sobering when I stepped out and it seemed like the entire aircraft, all of the passengers, had a hush over them. I think everyone felt the value of human life that day.
The NTSB found a fan blade in the engine broke off because of a slow-forming crack that went undetected. The FAA and Southwest Airlines vowed to make changes, but Shults gave that flight everything in her, everything that those decades had taught her.
That pilot, I give it out to her. I mean, wow.
He has nerves of steel.
Tammie Jo Shults became a symbol for women in a man's world.
You don't need to check your girl card. You can still be a woman and be a pilot.
The International Society of Women Airline Pilots reports just 5% of airline pilots worldwide are women.
It begs the question, why? Why aren't girls doing this? And I think part of it is you don't think about doing what you don't see being done.
But Shults is a reminder, doors are there to open, even if you have to be the one to push.
If there's obstacles that you have to cross, remember, you're helping to nudge the door open for the girls behind you.
James Packard, Newsy, Dallas.